The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and he missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
This 22-inch surface cleaner from North Star easily connects to your pressure washer for efficient, powerful cleaning with hot or cold water. It delivers 3 gallons per minute to 8 gallons per minute at 2,500 psi to a maximum of 4,000 psi, making it ideal for cleaning concrete driveways, patios, pool decks, parking lots, factory floors, and more. It's crafted of heavy-duty stainless steel construction with a spray gun specially designed to reduce fatigue. It includes a 3-nozzle rotary arm for faster cleaning with a high-pressure gun inlet filter that prevents debris from clogging the nozzles. And it all rolls smoothly on 2.5-inch carbon steel non-marking casters. It also comes with 2 replacement nozzles. Supercharge your pressure washing power with this 22-inch surface cleaner from North Star.
Located out in the Nevada desert, 80 miles from Area 51 and a nice 20-minute drive to the Las Vegas Strip lies the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where today drivers will take big gambles and hope for big rewards with a victory and a spot in the chase. A speedway that originally started life as a 12-degree banked oval in 1996 with Mark the Kid Martin bringing home victory in its inaugural race. In 2006, it was reconfigured to its current state as a progressively banked speedway, much like the Homestead Miami Speedway. Speeds and temperatures will be hot, with tire wear playing a big factor into the race. Drivers will be side by side, down to the apron, and all the way up to the fence, with Las Vegas providing the drivers plenty of room to race, and we will have it all live for you today in our flag-to-flag coverage of the NorthernTools.com 200. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazik. Joining me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Spinning the dials and cranking the knobs and making us sound twice as good as we look is Amjad Yaman, who is using cameras provided to us by camera guru Dougie Beard. Sam, Las Vegas allows drivers to max bet and come up big or bust out. Tell us about Las Vegas Motor Speedway and some of the challenges these drivers will face tonight.
Well, Las Vegas, Brian, it is generally regarded as one of those cookie-cutter racetracks, but since its reconfiguration in 2006, it has become a much more popular circuit. 1.5 miles long, 20 degrees of banking in the turns and 12 degrees banking down the straights, 134 laps. None of those numbers really standout numbers, and we're going to see about 4 to 5 stops during this race because they're going to be getting about 31 laps on fuel. The number, however, that has been standout during practice and qualifying was the track temperature, and the winds were very high. And during this warm-up session and probably heading into the race, we're seeing a much cooler track temperature and much less windier conditions. So who knows what differences, what impacts that could have on our race today.
Absolutely. Well, rather than us sitting here talking about it, let's talk to one of the drivers that actually will be competing tonight in the series. Sam, I believe you've caught up with Tommy Ryan, driver of the number 6 Northern Tools and Equipment Chevrolet.
Yeah, Tommy Ryan, first of all, you got us.
Hey, I'm here.
Now, Tommy, we're used to seeing you run up the front, and you've been performing well this season. However, even though it's early in the season, you're still sitting back there, 11th in the points, and we're waiting on you to get your first win, lock you into the chase at the end of the season. Do you think this is a track where that can happen for you tonight?
Yeah, it can. The tire wear is going to be tremendous. It's going to get really, really tight. I'll turn 2 and 4. And I mean, if you can avoid the carnage that's probably going to happen mid-pack, I really wanted a better starting position. I think I'm starting somewhere around 7th. I wouldn't want to be any further back than that, because when you get choked up in traffic, man, it's really hard to pass. The right front's only going to stay on their car for probably about 3 laps, and then you're going to see guys getting really, really tight from tires and from aero.
You usually have one of the more recognizable cars there out on the circuit, being sponsored by Northern Tools and Equipment on your Chevrolet, and they're sponsoring the race tonight. How's that came about?
Yeah, as you guys know, we used to sponsor Jack Roush and the 99 Northern Tool Ford way back in 2007. So I dropped the guys at corporate a phone call and got some stuff rolling with Chris Erath, Bill Check, and Sandy Kell. And we got all it worked out within an afternoon, and they agreed to pretty much give me a sponsor for this season. So the funds from that is putting all this together. We got one more race in Charlotte later on this year, and of course the paint will be on my cars and trucks all season long.
All right, well, we've only got a few minutes left of warm-up left here, Tommy, so we won't keep you up too long. But as you mentioned, 7th fastest in qualifying and 2nd fastest in practice. You've been up there in the top 10 all night long. We hope you'll be able to bring it home in a similar position at the end of the race.
Yep, I'm going to try, man. It's going to be managing tire wear, and a little bit of pit strategy is going to come into place. It should be real exciting. We should put on a pretty good show here for everybody.
And that was the drive of the number 6 machine, Brian. That was Tommy Ryan.
Yeah, and he will probably play a factor into this one tonight. Tommy Ryan, always a great competitor. We saw last week making a charge at Rockingham. He's not afraid to roll the strategy gamble, nor is he afraid to drive it very aggressively. But what I've been noticing here in some of the warm-up and the qualifying session, turn 2 seems like it's going to be Calamity Corner over here, Sam. For some reason, it might be the setup, it might be a small gust of wind or whatever's doing it. These drivers are pushing out towards the fence in turn number 2. So I think that that's going to be one thing that we're going to have to keep our eye on. Another thing that we're going to have to keep our eye on is last week, the leader always seemed to find trouble. And it was either a lap car or a connection issue or a pit road issue, something of that variety. So last week, it was interesting to watch. My pick tonight, James Grahula was able to get off of that final restart and lead the last 26 laps pretty much unscathed, so that was good for him. But now with him and Murray locked into the chase, we're kind of starting to approach some of the meat and potatoes of the schedule. So will someone else stamp their name into the chase for the year-end championship, or will Murray and Grahula keep somebody else from locking in this early? I mean, what would be your thoughts there, Sam?
Well, I have a feeling we're not going to see as much of a crazy race up front. I think last week was a bit of a one-off with the leaders getting involved in incidents, particularly because it's Rockingham, where some crazy things do happen sometimes at the Rock. But yeah, you talk about James Grahula and Dan Murray. James Grahula, could he be up there contending for the win? Possibly. However, if Dan Murray's going to do it, he's going to have to come all the way from the back of the field, because he spun during the first lap of his qualifying run, and then he didn't have enough time to build up enough momentum to put on a solid lap on the second lap. So he aborted it, and Dan Murray will be starting from the back of the field. So he's going to have a lot of cars in front of him today, and he's going to have to get around them cleanly, Brian, because you don't want to be involved in an incident around here. Aerodynamics are very key at the speedway. And to add on to that, there is no free repair in this series. That means if any of these drivers get involved in an incident, they are going to have to live with the scars for the rest of the race.
Absolutely correct. And for those of you who might be new to the AdvoCare Cup Series, the series runs a 60% fuel load with no quick repairs, as you mentioned. It's a fixed setup with realistic weather and a randomly generated track state. So each session is just a little different than the next. So with how these drivers are running right now, let me see if I can see that. A little bit of marbles, nothing major, but everything is carried over from practice. So as these guys finishing up warm-up here for about the next 2 minutes, 55 seconds, any rubber that they lay down will translate over to the race. So speaking of, I don't really have a good segue for this, but the series also, the Premier Racing League, has 2 other divisions that run, and both of them you might catch on GSRC later on this year, but that's my secret that I just shared with everybody. And they have the Coastal Safety Auditors Grand National Series, which Tommy Ryan, who we just spoke to, was the winner this week. And they also run a Sportsman Truck Series, which Scott Eckrich pulled down the winner. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, Scott Eckrich was the one that was pretty much having his way with Rockingham last week. And it has continued this week as
Josh Kinn, Matt Lacrosse, Mark Allen and Rhett McBride, however, will be hoping for good races coming up soon. Maybe a win even could lock them into the chase.
Yeah, if you're looking at Mark Allen and Rhett McBride, being back there's not a bad thing, especially if they can find their way up into the, pull off a win and get themselves locked into the chase. Rhett McBride was looking pretty sporty in practice in the previous session, and actually in this current session he's sitting 5th. So as the time runs out on this warm-up, drivers are going to start to grid, and we're going to show you how this whole field is racked up and stacked up. As we mentioned, Scott Eckrich on the Savage Spinners Pole Award. To his outside is DJ Beverly. In position number 3, Jake Wright, followed by Alec Marshall in 4th. In 5th to Matt Lacrosse. 6th goes to whoops, hold on, I'm all backwards here. There we go. 2nd was Rhett McBride. 3rd was Jake Wright. 4th was Alec Marshall. 5th was Matt Lacrosse. 6th was DJ Beverly. Sam, read us off.
Yeah, Tommy Ryan starting in 7th position, but he said he wasn't too happy about that. Jason Swan lined up alongside the outside of him in 8th. Steve Gottschalk in 9th, and Jonathan Cadell round out the top 10. Nick Cohan and James Krahula round out the top dozen positions.
In 13th, Rick Savage. To his outside, Pierre Daigle. In 14th, 15th to Drew Carroll. 16th to Randy Yoakum. 17th to Jesse Fowler. And 18th to Ryan Howard.
Now we get into the back half of the field, at least for the start of the race. Joshua Kinn lined up alongside Gerald Livingston, rounding up the top 20. Mark Nobert and Woodrow Mahan lined up in 21st and 22nd. Chad Stallman and Danny Sanchez lined up in row 12.
In 24th, Danny Sanchez rolling off beside him. In 25th is Jason Galvin, followed by Mark Allen in 26th. 27th to Reed Rundell. 28th to Brandon Minnick. 29th to Jeff Ryan. 30th to Joe Hassert.
Yeah, Big Joe rounding out the top 30 there. Paul Pepper lined up 31st, and then Don Runkle Jr. 32nd. Calvin Filarski in 33rd, and then you get to the drivers who didn't set a time during qualifying. Ricky Hardin, Jody Green, Dan Murray, Brad Collins, Rick Thompson, and Benny Allison rounding out the field there, Brian.
And that's going to be 39 drivers taking the green flag for you as you see the field working their way down the back stretch. With the wind as we're looking at it right now, let's pull up my guide here. Right now it's pretty calm, 5 or 6 miles an hour blowing across the track over there towards turn 2. So that might be a hotbed of action off of turn 2, but really it's going to be interesting as this one rolls out. And field working their way through turns 3 and 4, getting ready to get green. Ford Mustang pace car is itching to get off the track and let this field run off. Ford Mustang pace car dives onto pit road. That may be a little bit of a liar, but dives onto pit road. Field is in Scott Eckrich control, and he's on the loud pedal. Green flag in the air. Scott Eckrich is going to try to run away with this one. Following him right off of the start, Jake Wright getting a great start off of the initial run, and he's going to slot up right there into second, right in front of Rhett McBride, who got a terrible start on the outside, and now he's looking to try to defend his position from the machine there of Matt Lacrosse.
Building up speed as they go down the backstretch. Don't count right out of this. He's been up there in practice and qualifying as well, but no one has been able to top Eckert, and he's proven why he's the fastest car on track right now, running away. One driver blinking in and out. Nick Cohan is having severe connection issues and is dropping to the back of a field. Also, we had two cars who were meant to start in the top 20 that started from the pit. Jason Swan and Joshua Kin.
And Red, especially with this much of a field and starting off back, they are in a bad position right now, hoping for an early caution to try to keep out of the crosshairs and onto the lead lap. He's going to jump onto third. Rhett McBride trying to make a run back at Matt Lacrosse. They're going to come down to the start-finish line. You have to watch that apron down there. It will de-wedge the car in a heartbeat. You're going to spin it right off onto the apron and into turn one. Now, is Matt Lacrosse going to be able to hold the high side there? He absolutely will. Going to get a great head of steam. And then just off behind him, you've got a battle there between Jonathan Cadell and Alec Marshall. Marshall's trying to make that high side work early on, but I don't think at this point in the race it might be just a hair too early to try to run that consistently. If someone's underneath you, Sam, you might be able to get a run off of two, but I don't think you're going to be able to make that work throughout the entire run.
Interested in the hit, Tommy Bowen saying he thought it would be hard to pass around here. There's been multiple grooves for these drivers early on in the stages here. However, it looks like everyone's working their way upstairs, and the problem is on the progressive back track, once that high line comes in, that does make it hard to pass, because you can't pass down low because you're trying to get pinched off on the exit of a turn. So there's only two ways you get by the guy in front of you. You either got to bump him at the back, which isn't a good idea around Las Vegas where they're hitting 200 miles an hour as they enter the corners, or you dive bomb them, and we all know that dive bombing has its drawbacks in racing.
Yeah, it's not a great way to make a whole lot of friends out there on the speedway, but I know one person that probably will not be afraid to stick his nose up there. That's in the number 87 there. Drew Carroll, he was Mr. Excitement last week at Rockingham. Not afraid to be aggressive early and often throughout the race. Right now, battling Rick Savage for the 11th position. Let's see if he's going to be able to advance early on in the run. I mean, you're already seeing it, Sam. These guys they're trying to make the high side work, and if you can somehow make that car work around the bottom, well, it's as simple. You just pass them where they're not.
Yeah, the other advantage to running that high side is you don't get pinched on the exit, like you said we saw happening in practice and qualifying, where the cars kind of drift up towards the wall in turn two and then have so much wheel in it that they end up spinning on the exit. However, we think that was happening in qualifying a lot because of the wind direction. The winds have calmed down a lot, and during that 20-minute practice warm-up session ahead of this race, we weren't seeing as much trouble coming off of two.
Absolutely, and looking back through the field, I don't really see any hotbed of activity. Everybody's kind of playing nicely, but it is really cool to watch these cars go off into the corners and just fan out side by side. On screen, you've got a battle there between Danny Sanchez in the number 4 and the number 42 of Jason Galvin. Galvin going to try to make that outside steam ahead, and he will take the position away from Danny Sanchez. So these drivers are already trying to make the high side work, and it's starting to pay dividends for some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a driver on the bottom side will be at a disadvantage. Meanwhile, we do have a lap car of Joshua Kin, who started from the pit, stirring things up at the front a little bit right now. They've gotten single file up the front, but as they go around to lap him, that could create opportunities for cars to make a move. Right now, though, the top 5 is all single file. That's Scott Eckrich, Jake Wright, Matt Lacrosse, Rhett McBride, and Jonathan Cadell rounds out the top 5.
And Cadell working his way up nicely, started 10th all the way up to 5th, but no one has anything for Scott Eckridge. That number 70 machine is hooked up, just like what we saw last week out in Rockingham, just holding a really cool and smooth and steady wheel. And from a lap time standpoint, that last lap, Jake Wright there in second was quicker than him, but for those first 6 or 8, 9, 10 laps of the race, he was laying down some great lap time. As you kind of look out back, we got a battle for position. Nope, that's not a battle for position. That's, as you just mentioned, that's Josh King kind of trying to get kind of in the way there, kind of splitting up Rhett McBride and Jonathan Cadell. See if the 35 is going to roll out of it and maybe try to let these guys around, because there's a huge pocket right back behind them. And Nick Cohan, fans of Nick Cohan, his connection has given out, and or has become warping bad enough that he has actually left the server.
Yeah, that's a big shame for Kohan, and he knew that was bugging him even on the pace lap. I think he was, or in warm-up, he was trying to drop out the way of other cars when he was blinking in and out. So very unfortunate, because we know Kohan is a fast driver. Now you're talking about the lap car of Joshua King turning up the field a little bit. Matt Lacrosse a couple of laps ago got very close to the wall, and in fact Rhett McBride just hit the turn 2 wall coming out of turn 4, but that wasn't because of a lap car, that was because of I guess just a mistake. He tried to carry a bit too much speed in the turn, and these drivers are really going to have to learn to slow down as the run goes on tonight, Brian, because as we had Tommy Ryan telling us ahead of the race, these tyre wear is a crucial factor. Apparently these drivers are losing about 2 seconds a lap, even during these short 30-lap runs.
Yeah, well, that's really the case. I mean, just looking at your lap times right now, we've completed 13 laps. And just take your leader, for example, Scott Eckrich. His best lap was lap 2 at a 29.23, and his last lap was a 30.07. So already falling off 0.8 of a second. This early into the run, these guys are going to be screaming for tires as the run goes on, and you're going to see kind of like what you saw this past Sunday in the Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta. When one driver makes the move down to pit road, you would be foolish to not try to follow him. So really, who is going to be the first one to try to make the move? Is it, if you're sitting back there, maybe, we're looking on screen here at Rhett McBride and Jonathan Cadell, maybe these guys being a hair off there, about 2 seconds off of the lead, as Cadell's going to try to make a move on the bottom side. And now he's going to get clear of Rhett there, but Rhett is going to be able to come back on the high side with the momentum. They're going to get a little tight out of turn 2 there. Nothing major. Rhett's still going to hold the high side, looking high, wide, and handsome like old Harry Gant. But now, going into turn 3, is he going to he's going to try to hold up the position. Cadell's going to be able to slide up right in front of him. Now, nope. Just heard someone apologize for something over the radio. That typically means nothing good.
It was a battle for 11th down the backstretch. James Bahula and Rick Savage actually bounced off each other's fenders, and that just meant Rick Savage had to get out of line a little bit. No incident. Oh, actually, it could have been something further back in the pack, because we see Brad Collins coming into his pit stall and Mark Nobert with damage. So it could have been 2 incidents going on at the same time there.
Very well could have been, because it was Norbert that jumped over the in-race radio and apologized for something. I didn't quite catch what happened, but as you can see on screen there, that number 83 Vanilla Coke machine pretty much used up like an old tin can at this point. 17 laps into the race, that's not the position you want to find yourself in.
Yeah, there were a few battles going on. I mentioned the one between James Bahula and Rick Savage. They were actually in a 3-way battle with Drew Carroll. And in fact, they got Tommy Ryan and Joshua King, Joshua King's lap car. I have to keep reminding myself that because he actually qualified in the top half of the field. So you'd expect him to be racing with these guys, but that's not the way the night has played out. Alec Marshall also involved in the battle up there with DJ Beverly. And the problem is, when tyre wear is as much of an issue as it is tonight, Brian, these drivers have to be cautious about how much they race side by side, because as they do it, they're going to burn their tyres off more than if they had the racing line for themselves. Yeah,
when you find yourself in a fierce battle, like what you're seeing right there between DJ Beverly and Alec Marshall, which has now subsided to Alec Marshall and Tommy Ryan, we talked to in that Northern Tool and Equipment, it's number 6. When you constantly, especially on the bottom like Tommy is, you have to crank the wheel that much harder. And all that does is just melt that right front tire. And you're going to burn yourself up, and you might end up pitting, instead of maybe trying to go 32 laps or 31 laps, you might have to cut it in early at 28 just because the right front tire just has absolutely no grip in it. But poor Alec Marshall almost looks like the right front tire of his car is chewed up. He's given up 3 spots, or 2 spots already, and now James Perhula there. My pick to win this one. Going down to the bottom side of him. Tried to make it 3 wide underneath the 87 and the 6, but thought better of it. Oh, we got problems! There goes James Perhula and Alec Marshall off of the turn 2 wall. We talked about this in the pre-race. That turn 2 is going to get very tight, very fast.
No caution, because they're down on the apron. It's a paved apron down there. They didn't slide back up on the racetrack, so the race stays green.
That's unfortunate for those 2 drivers. Smoke trailing out of the back ends of both those. And that pretty much means that those ones are done for the day. You're gonna see there's James Grahula on pit road, smoke trailing out of the back of that one. That gonna go from the outhouse or from the penthouse to the outhouse this week, from victory lane last week, and now probably gonna finish about 38th, 37th, depending on if they can get their damage and repairs done on that one. But back on screen, all clear sailing for that number 70 machine of Scott Eckrich. Well out in front, about a second advantage over Matt Lacrosse, who has now jumped into second position over Jake Wright. So now comes the gamble. Did you take it early on in the run and take it easy and then try to make it all back up at the end of it? I mean, that last lap, pretty much Lacrosse and Eckrich both had right about the same lap time, with the fastest one on field being Tommy Ryan.
It's very interesting that James Grahula is blaming someone else other than Alec Marshall in the driver's chat for that incident. However, the advantage James has at this point is that because he had that win last week, he's locked into the chase, providing another 16 drivers don't get a win, which is unlikely to happen. So he can go out and race hard and try and win each week and just have fun. He knows he's in the chase anyhow. Unfortunately for him, it's not going to happen tonight.
Unfortunately for him, yeah, that's, it's just kind of unfortunate there. It's just it's the breaks of the race as this one goes on. But on screen there, you see Steve Gottschalk in that number 91 machine right in front of Tommy Ryan, who we talked to in the pre-race. And now Tommy Ryan's going to try to make a move to the inside coming off turn 4. Got a great run and should dispose of the number 91. Fairly simple going off into turn 1, and I think he even lets him off a little bit easy there. And Tommy Ryan in that Northern Tools equipment machine going to take another position, just slowly working his way up through the pack.
Yeah, there's actually been a change for second position. Matt Lacrosse, while all those incidents were going on, has gone by Drake Wright. I did see him running him down, so Drake might be struggling a little bit more than Matt on the long run. I'm very surprised at the way the drivers were talking about this being a highline racetrack and the way they were talking about the tyre wear tonight, Brian, that we've seen as much passing as we have. And I'm going to guess it's just because of the way the track is different than what it was in practice. If these drivers had to learn to drive cars that were ill handling and sliding all over the place during practice because of the hot temperatures, now that it's cool, they feel like they can race anywhere and go wherever they want. However, a bit of a development here. Scott Eckrich actually brushed the wall coming off of 4. I didn't think much of it, but Matt Lacrosse ran him down on the front straight, and now there's not a whole lot of time between them.
Matt Lacrosse ran him down like he owed him money. Now that gap went from a very comfortable 1 second to riding on board to just about 2 or 3 car lengths off the back of the number 70. I think turns 3 and 4, you're going to want to try to hug the bottom. I don't know if the top side is quite working there yet, but we're on board with Matt Lacrosse. You're going to watch this car go sailing off into turn 1, right at the outer edge of the black strip. And look at that, just visibly gains time on the 70. But then the 70 is able to cut it a little lower. And Alec Martin, ooh, wow, if he didn't catch the wall there, that was an impressive save from Matt Lacrosse. Got very, very tight off the top of that corner, and I think he probably had to lift it just to keep out of the fence.
I think he did get a piece of that wall, and that explains why he was going so fast in the entry of the turn, because he was overdriving it. But something that's very interesting right now is a few of the tail enders have actually began their scheduled pit stops on lap 28 here. We believe about 31, 32 laps is as far as these drivers can go. If Matt Lacrosse, if he doesn't hit the wall there off of 2 again, once again he gets very close to it. I think Matt's best plan is to come down in the pits 1 or 2 laps before Scott, get the new tyres, and he can leapfrog him for the lead that way. He doesn't do it this lap though.
It's a strategy you see employed in Formula One a lot, where if you can't pass them on the track, pass them on the pits. So, even with the way that these guys are running, they're easily 2 seconds off of their best times. Any slight advantage, even 1 lap, would be able to propel you around that number 70 machine if you're sitting in Matt Lacrosse's shoes. Now, can he get a clean break in the track? Right there, he's got the lap car there of the number 63 that's going to block him, but he's going to stop it almost right up there in the middle of turn 2, and here he comes down to pit road.
Yeah, this track for a 1.5 mile speedway, as fast as it is, it actually has a pretty nice pit entry. I haven't seen anyone having to slam on the brakes and get the rear end kicking out. Pit road is very busy right now. In fact, one of the only leaders who hasn't pit yet is our leader. But the big question here is, will anyone overshoot their pit stall? That's really the worst way you can lose time on pit road.
Here comes our leader, Scott Eckridge, deciding that these old tires are not so much fun to ride on anymore. Gonna hit pit road 55 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, and that's just gonna lead the field down. Actually, DJ Beverly is gonna stay out, and Tommy Ryan, I talked about this in the pre-race, not afraid to roll the dice here a little bit.
Oh, well, we got Woodrow Mahan, it's stood in, he's going through the infield. There was a 3-by coming off of turn 4, and there's a crash behind him, a separate incident. Jeff Ryan able to keep it pointing straight, but he was going sideways through the grass. The problem is right now, Brian, we've been talking about some drivers on new tyres, some drivers on old tyres. There's 2 seconds difference between everyone out on track right now, and that is leading to some very heavy moments.
It is. I mean, you get those new tires, there you see on screen Jeff Ryan sideways and then through the infield, able to keep that thing remotely straight and not get any kind of a penalty. You get on those 4 fresh feel goods, and all of a sudden you become Superman out there. But then you've got, Mark Allen, who's decided to stretch it out here just a little bit. But I think he's going to pay the price. He's leading right now. And he's going to get a bonus point.
Oh, Eckridge gets bumped. Eckridge, I don't know if he was slowing down to come and serve a penalty in pit road, and Matt Lacrosse ran into the back of him. And that will put Jake Wright, I think, into the eventual lead once pit stops have cycled through.
Yeah, we're going to cut this onto a replay right here on screen, and yeah, the number 70 machine just going to start slowing down, and bam, right into Matt Lacrosse goes that. So let's see here. He's going to hit the box. I don't see the jack stands going up. I believe it was a speeding penalty. I haven't heard anything to confirm that, but just the way he's been sitting on pit road, nothing going up on the car. I'm almost thinking there's 13, 14. I don't know. He's been on pit road now for 20 seconds. I don't know off the top of my head any penalties that you could get on pit road in iRacing that would provoke you sitting there for 30 seconds. So trouble has befouled Scott Eckridge, our clear leader through the first stint of this race. Now sitting on pit road, finally starts rolling off. 35 seconds on pit road. That is going to really hurt his chances as this race goes on. But luckily for him, it's early. He does have the advantage of getting potentially a Coastal Safety Auditor's Lucky Dog Award or 2 and getting back into it. But he's going to really need a big help, because there goes Jake Wright to the outside of him to put him a second lap down. So a big hole for Scott Eckridge to dig himself out of.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Scott just had about 30 seconds of optional repairs and decided to take them all, because the disadvantage of being the driver head up the back is that can affect the angle of a spoiler on the back of your car, and at a speed and at a track where they're only going down to 185 miles an hour through the centre of a turn, you really want that spoiler working at its full efficiency. But you can see Matt Lacrosse has been hurt by this incident as well, because with the damage to the front end of his machine, he might be about to lose second position to Jonathan Cadell here, who's on his inside.
And there you see it right there. The front end of that number 22 machine is beaten up just a little bit, and we talked about it at the pre-race of Las Vegas being a very aero-sensitive track. Now he's got to deal with that, and probably going to have a longer pit stop at some point here throughout the run. 43, Reed Rundell saying there's a... Nope, I was just waving somebody by. That was all. But yeah, so there's Jonathan Cadell marching up into second place. Started 10th, working his way up, and going to try to set sail on the number 27 of Jake Wright, who will jump up there if this battle starts to, if the gap starts to tighten up. It's about 1.2 seconds from the number 27 of Wright to the number 65 of Cadell. Looking back, Mr. Excitement there in 4th position. Drew Carroll worked his way up to 4th from starting 15th. That Shell Pennzoil machine, working his way up. I think aggression with his style, this shorter race seems to play into his hand very nicely. So, and another driver kind of on the move. Let's take a look back there to the number 33 machine, Ryan Howard, running in 8th position in that Dr. Pepper machine. We saw him lead that final restart at Rockingham last week with a little bit of tire spin and ended up finishing second to James Brahula. And right now has worked his way up quite nicely, up 10 positions from starting 18th to 8th. And then right behind him, and there is Tommy Ryan in the Northern Tools and Equipment number 6.
Yeah, nice job by Drake Wright to get himself up to the top spot. He started in 3rd place and he's kind of just quietly worked his way up there. The problem is right now is he's in the top position, and it seems what you're saying happened last week, Brian. I thought Rockingham was just a one-off where the leaders ran into trouble, but it could very well be the case this week with the top 2 leaders getting involved in an incident coming to pit road. And the interesting thing here that this series has done is that 60% fuel load makes it a strategy race. You thought that first round of stops was wild? Well, we're going to have to do it about 4 more times during this event, and we're going to there's going to be action that's going to change the outcome of this race every time the pit stops occur.
Yeah, I mean, you're really going to have to push the outer edge of that fuel window and try to cut a pit stop off it. With 134 laps today, you're going to, I mean, you'd have to run 32, 32, 32 in your first stints, and then probably have to cut it to 33 in your final stint to make it to the end. So, and with the tire fall off being 2 seconds at the end of the run, I don't know if riding around out there trying to save fuel on it would do you any good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, nice job by Matt Lacrosse so far to hold it on to 3rd position with the damage on the front end of that machine, because he hasn't been into the pits to get that serviced at all. They might be able to pull out on the fender when he comes in for his 2nd pit stop. But what I'm worried about for him, Brian, is he was one of the drivers who was suffering, it seemed, towards the end of the stint. He was suffering from a tight condition when those tyres began to get worn. I wonder if that damage is going to hurt him even more at the end of the round. In other words, he's not losing a lot of time now, but what about in 10 laps from now?
I think in 10 laps, all of a sudden, it's going to be like a big parachute to dive out of the back of that number 22 machine. When you're already tight, now you're bringing that front end damage into it. Definitely not going to help the end of the run. And I mean, maybe with the tire fall off, it might help. It might not be as magnified as it is, and there's really not all that damage. It's just crinkled up just a little bit on the left front of that machine. But unfortunately, the left front is where this car is going to pull a lot of its downforce from, so it's kind of hurting the wrong spot.
Yeah, and right now, as we mentioned, they're just working their way around the course because they're cleaning green so far because they have newer tyres on the machines. It's pretty easy just to log laps right now. But meanwhile, since we have been green since the get-go, that means we've got several cars 1 lap down now. Only 27 cars left on the lead lap. Jason Swan is the driver who would receive the Coastal Safety Auditor's Lucky Dog Award if the caution did fly. But I have a feeling that massive infield we have on the front stretch and the massive paved area we have on the back end of the field, I think we're not going to see that many cautions fly today, Brian, even if there are incidents, because iRacing just doesn't throw the yellow if an incident happens and it's not on the racing line.
A lot of these big 1.5 mile ovals, it is really tricky to get iRacing to trigger a caution, because you're right, there's a lot of area that's well off the racing route to spin out and have your disaster. So really what you'd be looking for would be a kind of a battle there, right on board with Tommy Ryan with Northern Tool and Equipment on board in a battle for position 7 there. But really the only thing that's going to trigger a caution would be like a pile up into the corner, so either entering 1 or entering 3, where a car would slow down and actually, you know, be forced to stop on track. But
yeah, good battle going on for 14th back here. There's been about 3 or 4 cars involved in it. Rick Thompson, Joshua King and Danny Sanchez trade in positions right now. I think Joe Hassett was in it a couple of laps ago, but he has since dropped back. They're beginning to break up a little bit now. It's still interesting how there's so much passing and different lines going on with the amount of a factor tyre wear is coming into play. But maybe that's actually helping all these battles out here tonight, as the battle for 6th that we were watching has now kicked off. DJ Beverly is now in front of Tommy Ryan, who has Rick Savage on his outside.
Yeah, Tommy Ryan kind of in the middle of a hornet's nest there, trying to keep off of the 12 there of Rick Savage, but also try to not run over the back end of the 0-2 of DJ Beverly. It's going to actually cost him 2 positions coming off of turn 2, but he's going to hold that low ground in turns 3 and 4. Oh, I saw the 33 of Howard there. Almost looked like he was going to try to take him 3 wide off the corner, but thought better of it. Not even the halfway yet, so not the time to be pushing that envelope that early on in the race. But here goes Tommy Ryan again, trying to make that bottom work. Kind of diamonding off the corner, really. Kind of lets it float up in the middle, cuts it down, and gets a great run off, and it pays off in spades because now Tommy Ryan up to position number 7.
Yeah, and to elaborate on the point I was making about how the tyre wear could be creating more battles, if you pit as much as 2 laps before somebody else, yes, you'll gain time on them through the pit cycle, but you'll lose time on them on the next run. And that's only going to be more and more exaggerated as the race goes on, because everyone's pit stop sequence are going to get a little bit more out of order. Some cars will come in on lap 57, some cars might be able to make it to lap 63, and so on throughout the race. And that's going to create even more drama as we go on. We do have some cars coming into the pits, but this seems a bit early, I would think, for being scheduled. I mean, unless they're short pitting.
No, Rick Savage ran 22 laps there, and he's on pit road right now. Kind of hearing some other chatter, but see there the Savage Spinners number 12 machine onto pit road already. So trying to probably trying to get out of that gaggle of cars, but I don't know if that's not going to quite work out for him there towards the end of it. But up front, it's been a very slow reeling in process, but Jake Wright's lead has been shrinking. It's down to 9/10 of a second now, and it's actually shrunk about a second over the course of this run. So number 65 there of Jonathan Cadell trying to reel it in. It's very slow, and he might get to the rear bumper there at this pace before pit stops. So now that's going to prompt the question for the 65 of you dive off a lap early and try to catch Jake Wright off guard.
It's a possibility. We do have pit stops coming up within the next 5 laps, and I think another thing we've got to keep an eye on is how aggressive these drivers attack pit entry, because that is also a place where you could win or lose a lot of time. I think Scott Eckridge, before all of the incidents happened, had actually gained time over Matt Lacrosse by taking pit entry more aggressively. Because remember, Matt Lacrosse was right on Eckridge's rear bumper when he came in a lap earlier, and you would think Lacrosse would have had the lead by the time that they came back out on the track, because he had been able to gain that 2 extra seconds, but that wasn't to be the case. Meanwhile, this lap though, Drake Wright has actually put a bit of a gap on Jonathan Cadell, and providing he can keep this gap for about the next 5 laps, I think he's survived this stint with the lead.
It might not be. It might be a little early there. Cadell got about 1/10 of a second out of that lead. Now it's down to 6/10 of a second. But now the other ripple effect here is some of these cars that have pitted already are coming out there with their 4 fresh tires, and they're getting right in the way there. So you see the number 92 machine of Chad Stallman on 4 tires this early on. He's going to try to make a run at it, but now if you're Cadell, do you try to follow him and hope that he might send Jake Wright off of his game and his line? But yeah, you're right, Sam. Pit entrance is where you can make up a huge ton of time, but you can also lose it if you overshoot it that time by. And kind of taking a look back throughout the field, and there you see right there. Let's see what Jake Wright does. I mean, 27 laps. It might be a hair early for these guys, but no, both our leaders going to stay out front. Some kind of issue also for the fans of Dan Murray. Have worked his way up to about the 11th position, and you see him right there on screen. He worked his way up to about 11, hit pit road, and then had to hit pit road again. Sam, potential speeding penalty maybe?
It's possible, but I think he went into his pit stall both times, although granted I wasn't keeping a close eye on it, but what it does mean, I mean, even without all those pit issues...
We got a problem up there, turn one. Someone was smoking up into the fence. Was that Ricky Harden in the number 15 machine? Oh no, no one got into the fence. Ricky just went into a four-wheel drift. Saved it. Impressive on the number 15 machine. I just saw a whole lot of smoke out of the right front there.
Yeah, but we stay green, and that's the problem. That's the problem for Dan Murray, is he needed some caution so he can use some strategy. And we see here Ricky Harden actually got a bit of help. But while we stay green, Brian, that's hurting Dan Murray's chances of winning, and we saw what happened to James Kahula earlier on. That means it looks like we will get a third driver locked into the chase today, so expect the battle between the leaders to get really dicey before the end of the session.
Yeah, and here comes Jake Wright, who just announced that he's going to hit pit road this time by. Will Cadell follow him? He's kind of winding up the car. Nope, Cadell's going to storm around the outside and try to lead a lap, but now with the way that the tire drops off, there's no way that he could stay out more than another couple laps. I mean, his hand is kind of forced with Jake Wright diving off onto pit road.
It is, unless he's looking in the long term, but I don't think there's going to be much of a difference in how many pit stops everyone's going to make. However, maybe Jonathan Cadell was looking at how much he was running Jake Wright down by having slightly newer tyres during that run, and now he is going to come into the pit, so he'll lose a couple of seconds to Jake Wright this lap, but will he be able to make up for it over the next 30 laps?
Had a great pit road entry, got down to the line right the best way that you can. Brought a lot of momentum with them that time, so it'll be interesting to see how this one cycles out at the end of pit stop. So once again, out front is the 02 of DJ Beverly and the number 6 of Tommy Ryan. Both of these drivers are not afraid to let the fuel run longer and let the tires run longer. They're, you know, when guys like this are pulling the strategy that they're pulling, I have to feel that there's a reason that they do the things they do. And from up here in the booth, I'm just going to let them run their race and let it all shake out.
Yeah, Jake Wright going by the front straight right now, and Jonathan Cadell is, oh boy, he's going to lose a whole lot of time to Jake Wright, because he's only at 120 miles an hour, still building speed up on the apron. Jake's already down the backstretch, pulling 200.
Yeah, that must either be a slow pit entry or exit, or, I mean, the tire advantage, you know, when you look at it, Cadell ran a 31.3, 31.2, something like that. And the number 70, or number 27 of Jake Wright ran a 29. So, I mean, he gained 2 seconds just in the lap. But now, you know, Cadell is way off of that pace. So I'm wondering if maybe just had a very slow pit stop from what I could see. Difference of about half a second. So you add that all together. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, though, because Jake now probably has a big enough cushion that he can just kind of hang out and probably save his stuff a little bit as this run wears on.
Yeah, and look at the two cars behind Jonathan Cadell. We still see Matt Lacoste up there, even with damage to the front end of his machine, and he was able to survive a full run even with that damage. And then not too far behind him is Drew Carroll. I believe this is the way they originally were, but they were very close a couple of laps ago. They actually spread out a little bit more right now as DJ Beverly and Tommy Ryan are in pit road.
And there's those two drivers diving on the pit road. They finally gave up after 33 laps. So, you know, it might be a fuel play from Tommy Ryan. I mean, the unacceptable drivers, they're known to not be afraid to gamble on some fuel strategy. So now he's stretched at 33. Caution is out. Oh no, the 87 is caught up in it. Drew Carroll is involved. The number 19 of Mark Allen is involved. What happened? Oh, this is a weird one. Jake Wright got into the side of the, what machine was that? That was the 13. And that sent the 13 all cattywampus down the backstretch. And then poor Mark Allen was just trying to run along and not get involved in anything. I don't know. Did Dan Murray, as he was passing by, catch a piece of the 19 as well?
We'll see another
You see
replay here.
the 87 getting involved. So, with that, I'm not sure.
James Kahula is reporting that the 13 machine ran out of fuel. The 13 was Jody Green.
Well, this just got interesting.
Yeah, another interesting thing that happened on pit road there. DJ Beverly and Tommy Ryan were approaching. Well, DJ Beverly and Tommy Ryan were approaching their pit stalls when the caution flew, and I think Beverly completely overshot his pit stall by a couple of pit stalls, and so stopped on pit road, realised that the caution flew, and thought, hey, I'm going to be at the back anyway, so went back out on the racetrack so he didn't lose a lap or something. It was very weird what happened with DJ Beverly there.
That was, but you know who's going to be the big winner there? Rick Savage. You saw him as everybody's diving onto pit road after 7 laps on their tires. We were questioning that call of short pitting, but he came out into the lead and just jumped over everybody. And Scott Eckrich has manually disconnected as well.
Yeah, a whole bunch of different strategies are now going to be played because, I mean, pit stops were turned up enough as they were, what laps everyone was coming in. And then throw on top of that the first caution of the night flew right at the halfway point where some cars were in the pits and some weren't.
And, you know, this provides a perfect opportunity for us to potentially show a brief message from our presenting sponsor of Northern Tool and Equipment. So we're going to let this whole field settle themselves back out, catch their breath, and we'll see you back on the other side.
The kindling cracker is the easiest and safest way to split perfect kindling for your campfire, stove, fireplace, or pizza oven. To make perfect kindling, place a piece of firewood inside the iron safety ring and strike with a hammer, mallet, or another piece of wood, driving the firewood down onto the splitting wedge. Built of high-quality cast iron with an award-winning patented design, it's made to last for generations. Plus, there are no moving parts, so it's virtually maintenance-free. The solid cast iron has bolt holes for permanent mounting if preferred, making it the ideal companion for your backyard stack of firewood. When you need to easily and safely cut kindling, you need the kindling cracker. It's the safer, faster, and easier way to make the best kindling for your fire.
Welcome back to the NorthernTool.com 200 out at fabulous Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Interesting development with that caution happening with some guys trying to stay out and stretch it and some guys diving to pit road. Rick Savage is going to be your huge winner on that one, jumping up to position 3 before that run being somewhere back in the 8th or 9th position. But a more interesting development is Jake Wright has stayed out on track with 9-lap-old tires. With the way that this thing burns out, I don't think it's going to be long before these guys are going to be able to get around him and dispatch him very, very quickly. A lot of hungry drivers there. But we're going to come to the restart, and we're going to see what he can do. Probably Jake Wright's going to try to look to get onto that loud pedal very early and very fast. Pace car is off, and there he goes. Just check the field up a little bit, nothing major. Green flag back into the air. Jake Wright trying to run away and hide off of this restart, but it's not going to be for much longer because I have a feeling that this field is going to run him down in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and Scott Gottschalk was up there on the high side. These are drivers that some aren't used to being right at the very front of the field in this series, who now have track position on their side, and they're going to see how long they can hold on to it. Wright is going to hope that they're battling side by side as much as possible and holding each other up. Problem for him right now is Rick Savage is all on his own in second place. We'll see if Savage is able to run right down. However, with the mixture of this field, I hope our fans enjoyed that long green flag run at the start of the race, because I wouldn't be surprised for another incident to occur in the not too distant future.
Cautions breed cautions. DJ Beverly on the pit road. I believe he had to serve a penalty of some variety, maybe from all of that mess around being on pit road while all the pitting was going on and the caution and all that. So,
yeah, keeping an eye on the lead here. Brian there's a big moment for Gottschalk there, but he was able to hold on to it. Problem was it holds him up. Yeah, Danny Sanchez is held up, and Joe Hesser also lose a lot of time, and it creates a couple of herring moments heading over into 3, but they are all still pointing in the right direction.
Steve Gottschalk was the one that went sideways. 91 got involved at the 11 of Hesser, and a lot of drivers taken to the in-race radio to voice their displeasure with the driver of the number 91 machine, and that's putting it kind of lightly. Good thing that we don't run an open channel. The viewers at home could hear that, because that wouldn't have been pretty. Anyway, back out front. I'm impressed. I think that just goes to show the pure speed that Jake Wright has. He's able to keep a small gap. He's got about 0.2 of a second over the number 12 there of Rick Savage. And Savage is not closing as much as I thought, but now Savage is going to probably fall into the clutches of Jonathan Cadell there in the number 65 machine. So we saw how Cadell, as the run went on, was faster and faster. Now with him having 9-lap fresher tires than his counterpart, I think it might just be a matter of time before the wear burns off and it's going to be Cadell leading this thing. But we'll have to see, as he's actually under battle right now from the number 42 of Jason Galvin. Galvin trying to make the low side work, not going to quite pan out. I think he hit the apron there and de-wedged the car a hair, and Cadell's going to motor right around on the high side.
I think that's exactly what Savage wanted to see, though. He's saying, I got this. You two battle for third place. I can run down this lead and pass him, and he's trying to make it happen right now. He is tucked up right behind the spoiler of Jake Wright, trying to get as strong as a draft as he can, going down the front straight. The battle for third continues back there in turns 1 and 2. But I'm keeping an eye on Savage. He's not able to get the run or close in as much on Wright as he needs. Cadell has third place over Galvin right now, but Galvin continues to challenge for that position.
4 cars under a blanket live here in Las Vegas. Jake Wright doing everything he can to hold them all off. And now he's going to try to run high. Rick Savage going to try to look low going into turn 1. Will Savage have the tires to make it work? As you're going to watch the number 42 of Galvin try to dive it down onto the bottom side there. But now coming off of turn 2, he's pinned down to the low side of the track, and here comes Jonathan Cadell to the high side, trying to make it go and stick in turns 3 and 4. Is he going to be able to keep the pedal down? Because if he can get that preferred line going in turn 1, it's very close coming off of the corner. This is all happening right behind Jake Wright, and he doesn't have enough tires to get away from it. So he's actually kind of bottling everybody up here. Back 2 by 2. Are we at Daytona all of a sudden, Sammy?
Well, Jonathan Cadell had to roll out of the throttle off of turn 1 there because he got very close to the outside wall entering the corner, which is something that is easy to do. You don't see it happen often, but it is easy to do. However, I think this is a bit more of a threat here. Cadell's got a very fast car, and now he's along the outside of Drake Wright. He has a preferred line. I think that's the last time you're going to see Wright in the lead of this race for a little while. Cadell is on the high side, and I think he will come out of turn 2 with the lead here, as the battle for third is now between Jason Galvin, Rick Savage coming in on the outside, and boy, Wright is getting freak-trained all of a sudden.
Right, all of a sudden, is now he's in his own way. The clean air was helping, but now he's starting to get back into that dirty air, and all these guys are going to the high side to pinch him down. So he's really burning off that right front, trying to hold back. In one lap, he's going to go from the lead back to 4th place, and there's the number 22 machine of Matt Lacrosse. Maybe under that caution period, took some time to get some of the damage fixed on that machine. Maybe it's not going to hurt as bad. It still looks a little wounded to us up here in the booth, but I think all things considered, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, it's not half as bad as what it was. Now he's going to go for 4th position on the right. However, the low line isn't exactly the place to do that. About the second continues between Savage on the outside of Galvin will take out as they come across the line to complete that number 81. And what that battle has allowed is it's allowed Jonathan Cadell to run away for the lead as these two continue to battle for second down in turns 1 and 2. Savage continues to hold on to it. Wright is still in 4th, but Lacrosse got a nice run, and remember that Lacrosse has that bump on the nose, but he's still able to get 4th place. I think he'll seal the deal here.
Lacrosse going to steal up there, and then you see back there, Wright is going to fall back another position. That's not 4th position. That's actually Dan Murray, who had, I believe, some kind of speeding penalty or something that made him come back down pit road. He is currently in the Coastal Safety Auditor's lucky dog position, but he's also sitting 5th on track. So, and with Jonathan Cadell up there as a teammate, this could play out very beneficial to that number 5 machine. Even if Cadell is able to go around and pick up some of the back end of the field, Murray is not that far behind him. So I think Murray is going to be able to stay in that Coastal Safety Auditor's lucky dog position for the time being. Also, update for fans of Mark Allen out there. He has also, after that incident, disconnected from the server. Oh, and a caution! Problems out on the speedway. I saw it was...
Reed McBride. He's lost the front clip on that car, yeah.
Yeah, Rhett McBride. What happened there? Rhett McBride in the number 30. Oh, my. And that caught the 76 up there with it as well.
Yeah, it can get a little tight entering that first corner. You want to maintain as much speed as you want through the turn, so he was trying to get the best racing line, get as high as he could, and arc the turn as much as possible. Problem was he didn't leave enough room between him and the wall, and Brandon Minnick was in between them.
And Minnick really had nowhere to go. Or no, I don't know. That was an interesting one. I was going to say the 76 had nowhere to go, but I don't know. So as the field's going to work their way through turn 4 behind the Ford Mustang pace car, no doubt everybody's going to dive off to pit road this time by. And that's also, as we were just talking about it right beforehand, that's going to make Dan Murray in that number 5 JBL machine our Coastal Safety Auditor's Lucky Dog Award. There you see him, Brutus, the Lucky Dog himself. Coastal Safety Auditors, your one-stop shop for fire and life safety equipment and services. So you see him right there. Now iRacing has waved him around, and he's going to go up and catch tail end to the back of the field, which is going to work out very nicely for him, being in 20th position. Now he will be onto the lead lap and finally going to show some muscle here as this race enters its second half, or beyond its second half, actually. We're down to 49 to go, Sam.
Yeah, first caution came out right at the halfway point. Not a whole lot of changes off of pit road. Everyone took 4 tyres. I am not counting Drake Wright out of it, though, because he was darned if he did, darned if he didn't under the first caution. Although, granted, most of the cars came into the pits than you would have expected them to, but they were probably also encouraged to come down to the pits when they saw the leader stay out. So he didn't do too bad, only losing 4 positions in that run. And I think he has lost 4 positions to drivers he is faster than. He has about 50 laps left to go to make up those 4 spots. I have a feeling Wright could still be a threat for the win of this thing.
Could be, as this one starts to wind out. Another thing to take into consideration, you see on screen 49 laps to go with the fuel window being right at about 32 to 33 laps. That means one stop left for fuel, but if we get a whole bunch of cautions at the end of this, no doubt in my mind that might not, that you're going to see these drivers on pit road on more than one occasion as this race winds down. So let's you know what? Let's take a run through the field here. The AdvoCare through the field. AdvoCare, looking to add some spark to your life? AdvoCare gives you a full line of options from wellness and weight loss to those looking for a little more performance out of their active lifestyle. Please contact independent distributor James Krahula at james.krahula@gmail.com or the link in the description of the video below. As Sam mentioned, your leader off of pit road, Jonathan Cadell, followed by Rick Savage in the number 12 Savage Spinners machine. Third place to Matt Lacrosse, trying to hopefully get the front end of that one fixed as much as he can to try to make it work for these last 48 laps. Fourth place to Jason Galvin. Fifth to Jake Wright. As you see, we were talking about that just before him. Probably still going to be a threat as this one wears down. Steve Gottschalk, the one that we saw sitting just about running sideways through the middle of 1 and 2. He's running in 6th position, followed by Joe Hassert in the number 11 machine in 7th, followed by Pierre Daigle in 8th, Randy Yoakum in 9th, and the driver of the Northern Tools and Equipment, number 6 Chevrolet, Tommy Ryan, going to round out your top 10.
With waiver rounds, there are going to be 23 cars left on the lead lap when we go back to green, which is saying something considering we're far over the halfway point of this race and we've only had 2 cautions. So nice job by everyone, not only to keep it clean and only have 2 cautions so far, but by being quite competitive. We still have 23 cars out there on the lead lap. Granted, I think some of them have a better chance of contending for the win than others. And Jonathan Cadell, let's talk about his night. What kind of competitor are we talking about here in the number 65 machine? Well, we're talking about the driver sitting 3rd in the points, already 30 points above the chase cutoff even after just 2 races. So he has had a nice start to the season at Daytona and Rockingham. He was 10th fastest in practice, qualified 10th, and 5th fastest in warm-up. So he is definitely not a slouch. So, even if my prediction does come to fruition that Jake Wright works his way back up to the front, it could be an interesting battle between Wright and Cadell.
Absolutely, in the waning stages of this race. Or is there going to be a strategy call that's going to play this one out? Do you see these guys pushing the fuel out and probably hitting pit road with 12 or 13 to go? Or do they short pit it as soon as the window opens up? You know what? That's for us to call and for these drivers to figure out. We're going to go back to green flag action here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Ford Mustang pace car itching to get off the track and turn these guys loose. There it dives off to pit road. Field is in Cadell's hands. Green flag back into the air as Jonathan Cadell mashes that loud pedal. And he is going to scoot away off of the restart. It seems like the high side, who has been restarting second, is not able to get the restart. As you see Rick Savage going to fall back and lose 2 positions, potentially 3 by the time that they cycle back around. And you see he's going to try to, Jake Wright diving down to the inside, trying to make up some lost time and ground, but the high side is going to hold him down onto the bottom of the track, and the high side is going to have that momentum working their way through. They're going to try to go 3 wide. The 42 gets a little tight there, and all that's going to do is let Jake Wright try to scoot away. Savage is going to fight back on the high side, though. Going to get that good head of steam off of the high side, taking it back into the corner. But now will Wright be able to slide up in front of him? I believe so. He's going to complete the pass. Battle for the lead out there in the front. Matt Lacrosse, I don't think that car's hurt too bad anymore because now he's challenging for the lead going into turn 3.
Yeah, what 3 different stories we have here. Jonathan Cadell, someone who started a bit further back and has been able to use strategy to get to the front. And then you've got underneath him a driver who's been running up front all night but has damage. And then had Jake Wright, a driver who's been running up front all night and has been able to use other drivers' misfortune to get up front. 3 completely different stories. Right now it's Jonathan Cadell
we got
who
problems
has a
out
spot.
back. Problems on the backstretch. Dan Murray's involved. The number, 0235.
DJ Beverly in the 02. That's it.
They're still piling into it. The 92, the 00, the 98. Show you live on a replay what stacked them up there.
That's Stallman.
Looks like Murray got a little high off of the corner, but I don't think that's what caused it. I mean, it's like he gets high. Oh, you know what? I see exactly what happened. So he comes down off the high side. The 35 reacts and tries to come down. Unfortunately, the 28's there. And then while the number 5 of Murray is stuck on the high side slowing down, the number 33 machine there has nowhere to go and just runs right into the back. And then Murray is helpless at that point, drifts back up into the field, and then you start seeing everything else. And then after everything has happened, then the 00 and the 98 and the 92 come piling in and hit DJ Beverly off of the corner there.
Meanwhile, a lot of drivers just faked coming into the pits. The first driver who actually committed was Rick Savage. Now you see a couple of bent and buckled cars sitting down pit road.
It'd be a pretty split decision as Reed Rundell in that number 43 Harley Davidson machine is going to get your Coastal Safety Auditor's Lucky Dog Award. And there he is on screen, Brutus the Lucky Dog. Coastal Safety Auditors, we are your one-stop shop for fire and life safety equipment and services. So, and you know, the 43 kind of has a pretty clean car there, so he's going to be able to come back around, take 4 tires, and jump out. Dan Murray, fans of Dan Murray, he is disconnected. Apparently the damage was too much on that number 5 machine, so unfortunate break for him. He was having a great run so far in the season, your Daytona 300 champion, and you had a great finish at Rockingham as well.
Yeah, speaking about your lucky dog, it's kind of a lottery, isn't it? Winning the lucky dog is like winning the lottery. It's a great moment in the race. You're back on the lead lap, but then what do you do with your lottery winnings? Do you go out and blow it? Unfortunately, that's what Dan Murray did right there. He was back on the lead lap, trying to race a little bit aggressively, I suppose. He hadn't really been racing with drivers in the midfield for a lot of this race because of the incidents he had, well, not incidents, but just misfortunes he had in pit road earlier. It seemed a combination of factors set that wreck off, but unfortunately, you know, Murray was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, probably racing a bit hard to try and work his way back up through the field. Let's not forget that really a win is all he's after because he's already locked into the chase. And unfortunately, it is not going to happen for him today.
No, an unfortunate break. We saw him get caught up into that, but the number 15 of Ricky Harden, he came into tonight with 1 driver credit left, I believe. So that was a good 4X that he got there, which wouldn't gain nor lose him a position, but it's going to depend on if he was caught up in anything else that maybe would have triggered a 1 or a 2X, or maybe even a potential 4X that now he's going to, now he's going to behave like he might actually have to sit out next week.
Yeah, you talk about the driver credit system. That's the interesting thing about this league. These drivers have been racing very cleanly, and you might wonder, well, why are they doing that? Because there's no incident limit on this race. They can drive as aggressively as they'd like to. Well, the obvious answers are 1, aerodynamics is huge here, so you don't want to get involved in an incident. 2, you got no fast repairs, so you don't want to get involved in an incident. And 3, there's that incident penalty, the credit system that we gave a rundown of it at Rockingham.
Yeah, we did review that one, but it's based off of the iRacing system. So anytime that you find yourself in trouble out there on iRacing, a 1X is for off track, 2X would be for a self spin, and 3 or 4X would be from car contact. So we saw earlier Jeff Ryan go diving through the infield. That was a 1X. But unfortunately for Ricky Harden, he was the one that got caught up in the big accident there. Him, Dan Murray, all of them are going to have about a 4X potentially out of that one. But, and I think this is going to get interesting there for the guys that hit pit road. So your top 6 stayed out that last time. Jonathan Cadell, Matt Lacrosse, Jake Wright, Jason Galvin, Steve Gottschalk, and Pierre Daigle. From Joe Hessert on back, everybody was on pit road on that caution. So with about 7 green flag laps on those tires, I mean, we saw it happen with Jake Wright. I got to look at a guy like, Joe Hessert or Tommy Ryan potentially to march right up through this field and maybe assert themselves in the waning laps of this NorthernTools.com 200.
can't recall if Joe Hassett was in the pits, but I'll tell you one thing we're going to have to keep an eye on up front is Drake Wright is now in a really good position for this restart in third. He didn't have a pace I thought he would have on that last round, but let's see if he can do anything on Jonathan Cadell now that the air's a little cleaner.
Yeah, and here we go. A little bit of restart shenanigans off the bat there. Green flag back into the air. Cadell back onto the loud pedal. Going to try to motor away. Jake Wright was getting right up and close to him. And they're going to try to go 3 wide. No, they're going to try to do it. And nobody did it. Jake Wright got a great restart and is going to assert himself into the second position as the field thunders off of turn 2 one more time.
Yeah, it was Jason Galvin who was trying to make it 3 wide because he saw that Matt Lacrosse hadn't got a great restart, and now he's on the outside looking for third place and he made contact. Galvin goes upstairs, he's going to lose a couple of positions. Meanwhile, there's a battle for the lead going on with Jake Wright underneath our leader.
Jonathan Cadell's going to try to hold it up on the high side there, get that Toyota wound up on the top and try to pinch Jake Wright down to the bottom. It's going to work this time, but turns 3 and 4, the high side is not as good as it is in 1 and 2. Is he going to be able to clear him going in there? No, Jake Wright's still going to be on the inside of him. But now look at this, on the side-by-side battle is bringing the number 22 of Matt Lacrosse up back into it. So Jake Wright's going to get a great run off of turns 3 and 4 and hold the lead.
Yeah. But got contact between Jason Galvin and Joe Hassett. I'm not so sure that these guys back here are going to get through all this without an incident. The key, I think, Brian, is who's going to have a nose out in front when the incident occurs. But right now, it looks like it's going to be Cadell because he's ran away from the battle for second now. Wright has fallen all the way back to third.
He has, because all of a sudden, Matt Lacrosse has charged out of the back after getting caught up early on to the back bumper of the number 70 of Scott Eckert. Matt Lacrosse is going to take that Toyota and try to get the lead away from Cadell. He's going to follow in his tire tracks on the high side, cuts it down and going to get a great run off the bottom, but it's not going to quite be enough because it's going to even out because of the run Cadell got from the high side. And now if you're Jake Wright, you're sitting back in the popcorn position going, all right, these guys can get side by side, and I'm just going to sneak up and pass both of them at some point. Off of the restart, though, Rick Savage is your highest runner that was on pit road that last time. He's back in a gaggle of cars, just in front of a gaggle of cars. Tommy Ryan, the Northern Tool and Equipment Chevrolet, is the one that is caught up into that gaggle of cars. But back out front, Jake Wright still sitting back there in third watching as Matt Lacrosse is trying everything he possibly can to get to the inside of the number 65 of Jonathan Cadell.
These drivers have just had a lot of short runs because of cautions, but let's not forget how much we were talking about tyre wear early on in this race. There is still a full fuel run to go before the end of this in. That's if it stays green. We might still have a couple of cautions where they can come down the pits and it will be short runs anyway. But even though we see Cadell leading now and Lacrosse all over him, could Jake Wright be winning the battle here by saving these cars for late in the run if it stays green?
He is sitting back in that popcorn position right now. You see the 00 there. The 00 machine of Don Rumpel trying to stay out of the way with the whole front of that car looking like a SK modified machine more than a Sprint Cup machine. And still, Lacrosse is trying everything he can to get around Cadell, but Cadell is just able to keep the momentum up from the high side. And we take a look on back, behind Jake Wright, Rick Savage in the number 12 Savage Spinners machine. We just mentioned it, he was just on pit road and now he worked his way up to fourth. Is he going to have enough to potentially close in and make this a 4-car battle again? I mean, I'm not sure. Lap time wise, maybe he was just getting clear of somebody, but lap time wise, he was still a bit off of what our leaders pace on.
Yeah, he just passed Scott Gottschall for that critical 4th position not too long ago. And the reason I say it's critical, Brian, is because, as you mentioned, I have a feeling he is going to run down Jake Wright this time. Jake Wright ran a 29.9, Savage ran a 29.8. It's only 1/10 of a second, but I have a feeling as this run goes on deep into the run, those extra few laps on those cars are going to make a bigger difference, as I almost saw a bit of contact back there in the battle for 8 between Danny Sanchez and Joe Hassett.
I just happened to keeping an eye on that back there himself. Joe Hassett, Danny Sanchez, Pierre Daigle all battling to stay into the top 10 here All those drivers were on pit road except for Dago. I think you're already kind of seeing that 55 machines fall out back. Those tires might be giving up just a hair more, depending on how aggressive he's had to drive it. As you see, Hassert tried to make a move onto the inside of Sanchez, but Sanchez is going to get that good run off of the top and keep the position and gap him just a little bit.
Now we're entering interesting times here because drivers can pit and make it to the end of this race on fuel. So, does anyone risk short pitting? And you've got to think that the answer is going to be no because of the amount of cautions we've seen lately. If you think a caution is going to fly, no, you want to stay out until the caution does fly and make your final pit stop then.
That's where it's going to get. That's where it's going to get interesting.
Unless, of course, you're at the back of the field. Yeah, here comes Rick Savage in.
Nothing to lose for Savage. Running fourth, decided to fall off. I mean, it worked for him the one time because now he's going to be lapping right about a second faster than these guys. But I don't know if the tire fall off is that fast, that much. Oh man, this is where you have to sit on the hot stove and sweat ice water. When you're trying to be the driver and the crew chief all at the same time, when you're trying to figure out the best way to put yourself in the position for the victory. Battle up front has stabled out a little bit. Each driver has about 3/10 between them, but we go looking back at position number 4. There's Steve Gottschalk under fire from the number 6 of Tommy Ryan, that Northern Tool and Equipment Chevrolet, all over the rear bumper of the number 91, trying to get by. We know that Tommy Ryan is not afraid to stretch this out, and as soon as I say that, Tommy Ryan dives to pit road. He's calling his shot right now. 26 laps left in this race. He's going to try
behind them. Ricky Hardin and Paul Pepper came into the pits, and Pepper.
More contact on pit road. The 29. They're all sitting sideways on pit. No, they got it all straightened out. All right.
Well, I think this is a smart idea from these guys. These are drivers, Rick Savage and Tommy Ryan.
Oh,
and
here comes Cadell. Here comes Jake Wright.
Yeah, here come Cadell and Wright. But those were drivers that know they're front runners. They know they're probably going to make a chase at the end of the season. So why not solidify that tonight? Why not pit early and go for that win tonight?
Absolutely. Now, this is going to be interesting to see what Lacrosse does. I mean, he knows he's going to be giving up time to these leaders, but you're out there in front. You're trying to hope to play the strategy where they get stuck a lap down. He's not slowing down off of turn 4. Matt Lacrosse is going to try to lead this one. I think he's going to try to stretch this potentially another 5 or 10 laps, I would think, and hope that maybe he can catch all these guys one lap down, and then at that point they have to either battle for a wave around or a lucky dog, and hopefully they'll all pile into each other and he can just run away with the win.
Rick Savage was coming through turns 1 and 2 at a high speed as Jonathan Cadell is still merging onto the track. Savage, by pitting those couple of laps earlier, is far out in front now. And now, of course, you could argue, well, Savage is going to have older tyres by the end of the run. The problem is we're not going to go the full run. There's only 24 laps to the end of this race, so Savage's tyres aren't going to be as bad as what they would be at the end of a all-fuel run by the time the checkered flies.
No, I think he's played his move perfectly. Big loser there. Jake Wright was right on the rear bumper of Jonathan Cadell. Now Savage is sitting, or not Savage, Jake Wright is sitting far enough back. My timing and scoring isn't playing nicely with me right now, but he's sitting far enough back on the track. I mean, Cadell's exiting turn 4 now, or he's heading the start-finish line now, and Jake Wright is a couple positions behind him. So I don't know if that strategy is going to work out for Wright, but definitely working out front for Matt Lacrosse, Josh King, and Reed Rundell. Those 3 drivers are your only cars on the lead lap. So if a caution would come out now, these guys would be in the catbird speed. And here comes Matt Lacrosse. Decided that the fall off was not worth it, or he's going to try to just go absolutely all out for the last 20 laps. So now that puts the number 35 machine of Joshua King out in front. How long is he going to stay on these tires? How long is he going to try to stretch this one out?
I'm hoping to the end of a fuel run. I think this was a bad decision by Matt Lacrosse. If you're going to make a strategy call, stick with it. He should have tried. These guys are going to lose time for the leaders. The only way, and Josh King, maybe they are coming up to the end of their fuel run.
Big shakeup towards the end of this. Josh King, as he hits onto pit road. Rick Savage was not in the right position. He had to check up. Jonathan Cadell was way on the high side, and as the 12 of Savage reacted, the 65 of Cadell was able to put his foot in it and storm around the outside. So right now, if this one runs green for the next 27 laps, I have a feeling that this one's Jonathan Cadell's race to lose.
Yeah, that could have been the race-winning pass right there, and it happened with traffic coming down pit road. Mind you, Reed Rundell hasn't pit yet, and he's on
pit road now.
Well, Matt Lacrosse is still in front of him, though. Yeah, no, Matt, that may have not been the race-winning move. That may have been a second position move.
Well,
mind you.
You want to know an interesting ripple? Pit time on the number 22 machine of Matt Lacrosse, 7.5 seconds. Sammy, what does that scream to you?
2 tires. That means that was the race-winning move that we saw just now then, because Lacrosse ain't going to be able to hold up Cadell.
Well, I mean, 2 tires win in Vegas. You have to take a big gamble, and that's exactly what he did. 2 tires on the right side and was able to stay out in front, but I think it's just not going to quite pan out because now Cadell is to the inside with 4 fresh feel-goods, and here comes Cadell trying to make the bottom side work, and the 22 is going to pinch. They get very close off of turn 4, storming down to the line. 18 laps to go. Jonathan Cadell down to the apron of the track, trying to get as far away and break that aero draft as possible from the 22. Cadell sails it into the bottom. Is he going to be able to make it stick off of turn 2? No! Matt Lacrosse is still going to be there as Lacrosse gets very close to the wall. Great battle, great action out front in this race. Cadell trying to make the bottom work, trying to get away because he knows the second he's able to hear clear from the spotter, there he is, he clears it off of turn 4. The second he clears him, he is going to be able to start marching away with this one. And it's going to boil down to, is Rick Savage, is the tires on that 12 machine going to hold up? Because now he's under fire from Tommy Ryan.
Yeah, the battle for third is going on. Tommy Ryan is looking for that position, and now I think back to it, this makes sense why Matt Lacrosse would take 2 tires, because he had stayed out on the track longer than these competitors. He knew he was going to lose time for them if he took 4, so why not take a gamble and take 2 and gain track position? It didn't pay off. Well, it wasn't the race-winning move. I won't say it hasn't paid off, though, because right now he's still sitting in second, although Tommy Ryan has now taken third, and it's going to be running him down.
And the gap between the 2 drivers of Matt Lacrosse and Tommy Ryan is about a second right now. Judging by the last lap time, as Tommy Ryan was even going around the 12 machine of Rick Savage, was able to match the lap time of the number 22 machine of Matt Lacrosse. So it's really just going to be a matter of time before that number 6 machine marches down and is going to try to get up to the second podium step. But now the bigger question that I'm going to have is when he gets up there, has Ryan shown all of his cards? And you see right behind him, Jake Wright, Rick Savage battling for position 4 on track, which potentially could turn into the 3rd podium.
I'm not quite sure what's happened to Jake Wright tonight. Earlier on, he was one of the fastest drivers. I'm going to guess the competition doesn't improve. He had his back from the get-go, but he hasn't been able to find any extra time, and he's going to have to settle for 4th place finish after being probably one of the top, or maybe the top 2 fastest cars early on in the race. The second half of the race has not been kind to him. Now, of course, we've got to remember that if a caution flag flies with about 5 to go in iRacing, they don't have green-white checkers, and that will end it. We're coming to 13 laps to go just now.
And it is all smooth sailing for the number 65 of Jonathan Cadell. Got about a half a second lead over the number 22 of Matt Lacrosse. Tommy Ryan has not been able to make any big inroads on Matt Lacrosse, so I think Lacrosse is going to be able to hold on to it and potentially finish second if this stays green all the way through. And potentially, I think, I mean, if he would have taken 4 tires, that would have put him somewhere in the back end of the top 10. So it was, I feel like it was a great maneuver for Matt Lacrosse. He played his hand, he was hoping for the caution, it didn't come, and now he had to try to salvage what he can to get a great finish out of this one. And I think he's going to pull this one off today.
Yeah, it's been a nice performance by Jonathan Cadell. Like I said, he was 10th fastest in practice in qualifying, 5th fastest during the race. I think he may have used a bit of strategy. I think everyone's been taking 4 tyres when they came into the pits, but the strategy has been when did you make those pit stops? And he's played it well to get himself up the front towards the end of this race, and he's been able to use his pace and that clean air to help give him the win. I'll tell you what though, Matt Lacrosse hasn't exactly dropped back. It seems that Cadell's tyres have got to a certain point where they have both plateaued and now running the same lap times. I don't think Lacrosse is going to be able to run Cadell down, but that being said, if Cadell were to make a mistake or get held up by lap traffic, which we have seen lap traffic play a big role at some points during tonight's race, Lacrosse will be there and he'll be ready to pounce.
Yeah, you're right. I just kind of started noticing that. Maybe those 2 tires have started to even off a little bit. And he's able to stay right about half a second, 0.4 of a second back of the number 65 machine. As this one closes out, I don't know if it's going to make that one interesting, but it could get, just like you said, if Cadell gets wrapped up in some lap traffic, which there's plenty of it rolling around the speedway today, it could make the race for the lead interesting, but more importantly, battle for position number 3 on screen. Tommy Ryan, Jake Wright battling out for that 3rd position on the 3rd step on the podium. Right now, this is going to settle out between the 2 of them of who's going to get onto the podium and who's going to get to talk to us at the end of this one. Tommy Ryan hanging on to it, but at one point Jake Wright did have him clear, but then Jake Wright got very, very tight off of turn 2 and had to roll out of it, which let the number 6 of Tommy Ryan get back around him. And now you see it right there, side by side. Jake just can't make the bottom work as good as Tommy can make the top work. So there you see Tommy Ryan. We talked to him in the pre-race, said he had something, and now in that Northern Tool and Equipment number 6 machine holding on to that 3rd step of the podium.
Tommy Ryan has raced a very Tommy Ryan race tonight, and that basically means he's been quiet about it, and he's been able to pull away a solid finish because of it, even if he does drop back to fourth from Jake Wright here. The problem is you kind of needed to be a little bit aggressive tonight to make the long runs count and make the strategy count and pull off a finish. And Tommy, after starting, he says it was far back in the field, he started 7th, and just having to pick up a position slowly one by one, it's been quite difficult for him tonight due to the competitiveness, and he'll walk away with a 3rd or 4th place finish. Good for him in the points, but it's not going to get him that win that we know he can get. Granted, I have a feeling he'll have a W, he'll have a number in the win column by the time we get to the race.
But yeah, I think the bigger story would be somehow if Tommy Ryan is shut out of victory lane as the season wears on. I don't see it happening, but you know, this is iRacing. Strange things have happened, and you know, you can find yourself from the you know, kind of in the benefactor seat, or you know, just kind of watching everything go by. But on screen, you see Rick Savage now. That call to pit early paid off in spades early, but now it's kind of backfiring on him because he's been falling back through the top 10, and he catches the fence. He's going to hold on to it. Everybody has to check up and react around him. No caution there as we come into 5 to go this time. So you're right, Sam. A caution now would pretty much end this one. But good job for Rick Savage and everybody around him that was able to stay off of him and let him kind of get it all collected up by himself.
The problem for Savage right now is it doesn't matter how beat up his car is, with 5 laps left to go and a pretty decent gap over the next car behind him, you have to stay out, and that might mean he may lose a couple of spots if he has to back off to keep his car pointing in the right direction. Meanwhile, you saw up front there, Jonathan Cadell has checked out from Matt Lacrosse, but still it's going to be a solid performance by Matt Lacrosse to come home with a 2nd place finish, even with damage to the front end of his machine. I'm a little bit more concerned about the driver he got involved in the collision with, Scott Eckridge, who has proven that he is very fast, but at Rockingham he lost the connection. Here he was speeding. It just seems that there are various incidents happening, a couple out of his control, mind you, for Scott Eckridge. It's going to be interesting seeing if he can put a clean race together late in the season and earn himself a position in the chase.
I mean, I have a feeling he's going to be able to get a win on this as you're looking up front. And there's that battle again. Tommy Ryan and Jake Wright trying to trade positions for third. Jake Wright sailed it down into the corner, but Tommy Ryan's going to get that momentum from the high side and keep it up out in front. Still not going away anywhere. Out front, though, Jonathan Cadell is going to come off of turn 4 and take the white flag one more time around the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The field is in his hands right now. He's got a 1 second advantage over Matt Lacrosse, and I think he's just going to be able to make a nice, easy trip around this one. He started 10th. We've talked about this a lot in the race. Started 10th, methodically worked his way up. He told me last week in the post-race that he wasn't looking forward to Las Vegas, but we'll hear just how much his tune is going to change. Works his way off of turn 4. Jonathan Cadell going to win the NorthernTool.com 200 at Las Vegas.
And Tommy Ryan holds on the high side to keep Jake Wright behind him in 4th position. A nice run by both drivers. I'd actually picked Jake Wright for my winner's pick here tonight. He wasn't quite able to pull it off, but like in Rockingham, he comes home with a nice top 5 finish. Let's give a shout out to Steve Gottschalk in 5th place and Jason Galvin in 6th place, who were able to benefit from the falling of the cautions early on in the race to get up to the front of the field. They were able to hold on solid positions and come home with 5th and 6th place. But yeah, really nice performance tonight by Jonathan Cadell.
See him on the front stretch right now. He's probably going to cut that machine loose and cut a couple donuts on the front stretch. See what he does. Hey, he's known for some pretty elaborate shenanigans if you watch his live stream that he does, but we'll have to see here as it works out. Sitting there on the front stretch, I'm sure undoubtedly he's going to cut it loose here in a second, but we're going to come and take a short little break. You're going to see a commercial, and we're going to come back on the other side for driver rundown, full field rundown, and some interviews too. We're going to talk to that guy making the donuts on the front stretch. Jonathan Cadell, your winner today in the NorthernTool.com 200. We'll be back on the other side.
This 22-inch surface cleaner from Northstar easily connects to your pressure washer for efficient, powerful cleaning with hot or cold water. It delivers 3 gallons per minute to 8 gallons per minute at 2,500 psi to a maximum of 4,000 psi, making it ideal for cleaning concrete driveways, patios, pool decks, parking lots, factory floors, and more. It's crafted of heavy-duty stainless steel construction with the spray gun specially designed to reduce fatigue. It includes a 3-nozzle rotary arm for faster cleaning with a high-pressure gun inlet filter that prevents debris from clogging the nozzles. And it all rolls smoothly on 2.5-inch carbon steel non-marking casters. It also comes with 2 replacement nozzles. Supercharge your pressure washing power with this 22-inch surface cleaner from Northstar.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where we've witnessed Jonathan Cadell become king of Vegas and pull off the victory. But before all of that, let's give you a full field rundown here, brought to you by AdvoCare. Your full field rundown. Jonathan Cadell, winner today. Matt Lacrosse with a two-tire call at the end of it, tried to make it work, and it's going to pay off for him, finishing second. Third rung on the podium, Tommy Ryan. Fourth to Jake Wright in that thrilling battle over the last 10 laps between he and Tommy Ryan. Steve Gottschalk, we saw him pretty much sideways going through turns 1 and 2 at one point today, going to hang on in fifth position. Sixth to Jason Galvin. Seventh to Rick Savage. Eighth to Danny Sanchez, followed by Joe Hassert in ninth and Pierre Daigle in 10th.
Yeah, no.
Welcome back, everybody. After a small technical gremlin decided to reach up there and get us on the TeamSpeak server, no big issue. We're back, and we're going to come back with some driver interviews. So I'm going to catch up with our third place finisher. We talked to him in the pre-race, and he's going to come home third on the podium. Tommy Ryan, the Northern Tool and Equipment number 6 Chevrolet. Tommy, tell us about your race today.
Oh my gosh, man, it was it was a little bit worse than what I brought on in the pre-race there. Obviously, it did get tight. There was a lot of carnage and whatnot. Man, I just with my pit strategy and stuff, we were pitting, and I got caught under caution there on pit road, and I was on the lead on tail end. I got the wave around, and then I just started digging from there and just trying to stay out of trouble. It was very eventful, very scary at times. I was just looking to finish, man. I really want to get a top, at least a top 5 for my sponsor and stuff, and get some good TV time with you guys. So overall, it was a good night. Jonathan did a great job, man. Congrats to him. I came out right behind him, man, on that last pit stop, and I was like, okay, I'll be able to just kind of hang with him. But man, he just walked from me, and I was just hanging on at that point.
You did have a fairly good car. Tell us, though, at the end of that one, you had a great battle there with the number 27 of Jake Wright. He got by you at one point, and then it looked like he washed out, and you just were in control from there. So as this one wound down, do you think that you're going to be able to hold on to third with Wright all over your rear bumper?
Yeah, Jake's quick, man. Um, I really ran hard to try to chase Cadell and kind of failed at that. And then I could see Jake coming in the mirror, and he got around. Man, I can't remember, Rick Savage. And when he got to me, I was like, if I don't let him go, start racing him, those other guys may end up catching me, and I'll go from third to seventh. So I was kind of watching the interval. But then, I told Jake, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and let you go low here. But then he bombed the corner and just killed it out of 2. And I was like, you know what? His tires are probably toast now, so I could probably just race him at this point. So we went at it, man, and we had some great side by side. But man, it was so hard to pass on the bottom. You just couldn't get out of 2.
Yeah, turn 2 seemed to be calamity corner for everybody. Was it just the setup that as it pushed off of turn 2, it would just slide and slide, and then all of a sudden would grip once either you caught the fence or it just gripped on track and it would send you down into the guy below you? I mean, was that what you're feeling holding the steering wheel?
Yeah, there's 2 really good bumps in the center there, and if you're on throttle and you hit those just right, no matter if you're already turning, it'll kind of lift the car up, and you'll just kind of like shove the nose all the way to the wall. And if you hit the wall out of 2, which you guys saw, it like catapults you into the inside wall, and it takes out everybody in your path. But just as far as just being tight, you had to have the thing really pointed, and the thing had to keep turning as you were exiting turn 2. If it wasn't turning, it was not going to be good when you got there.
That was the case. It was a great race today. Track temps a little cooler than what we were expecting, but provided for a great race today. Tommy, any final thoughts for us today before we send you on down the road and catch up with you next week at Phoenix?
No, man, just obviously everybody, go check out our Facebook page, Unacceptable Racing. We always got funny stuff on there. Obviously, thanks to my sponsor. We always, spring's coming up. There's going to be demo days coming around. Lots of cool stuff on sale. So make sure you head over to northerntool.com and get all your spring needs. And man, we're going to do this again in Charlotte here in the spring. So thank you guys, man.
Thank you. We'll catch up to you next week. Tommy, have yourself a great night and enjoy your third place finish.
10-4.
That was the voice of Tommy Ryan. Sammy has caught up with our second place finisher, Matt Lacrosse, who drove the wheels off of it trying to catch up. Sammy, take it away.
Yeah, Matt, I think the first question on everyone's mind is how bad was that damage on your front end after your incident mid-race there?
It wasn't too bad. It didn't slow me down too much, I don't think. Temperatures never went up, so it didn't get into the radiator or anything. That was just a bonehead move on my part. Apparently, I had pitted the lap before him. He stayed out, did another lap, and then I saw that he came in once already. So once I came back out on the track and I heard somebody call up, hey, I'm pitting, and I didn't even assume it was him because I thought he already pitted. So I don't know. I just wasn't paying attention. I apologize to him for it. But yeah, I just, under one of them cautions, I just decided because all them cars were going to go a lap down, I think the worst I could have been was like 11th. So I decided to just sit in there and get it all fixed just in case.
Yeah, now early on in the race, you were running up front, but you seemed to fall back a little bit on the long run, and it seemed that the tyres were hurting you. Yet at the end of this race, unless I'm mistaken, you went with a 2-tyre call.
Yeah, I was driving the crap out of the car. With the fuel set the way it is here, you can only make it like 25, 30 laps on fuel. So I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna drive it until it won't turn no more, and then I'll pit. So yeah, the 2-tire call, I'd planned on that from the very beginning, as I'm gonna take as least amount of fuel as I can and throw 2 tires on it and see what happens. But Jonathan was just too much for me, man. I tried hanging with him there for like 10 to go, and I burned up my tires too early trying to catch him. So
yeah, but you did come home with a solid second place finish, which will, I know it's early in the season, but puts you into the top 16 in points in chase contention. However, everyone knows that a win is what gets you it locked into the chase. Do you think Phoenix next week is going to be a place where you can get that W?
If we could revert back and run the old Phoenix, maybe. I haven't had much luck at the new configuration that iRacing's put out, but we'll see. I like Phoenix. Phoenix is always fun. Phoenix can be wrong place, wrong time in your race early kind of track, but we'll see. I hope so. Hope to get at least one sometime this year.
Yeah, well, nice solid run by you tonight. Matt, you started in 5th place. You brought it home second. Get yourself up there in the points. And hey, I know Phoenix hasn't been nice to you. Maybe it'll feel like it owes you one next time.
Yeah, 10-4. It's Las Vegas wasn't ever really good to me in the past either, but it seemed to work out pretty decent tonight. So, yeah, we'll look forward to Phoenix and looking forward to it.
All right, well, we'll let you go and celebrate. Congratulations again, Matt.
All right, thank you, sir.
The voice of Matt Lacrosse there. But our big winner tonight brought home the victory in that number 65 machine. Jonathan Cadell, you have reigned supreme at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And it was, refresh my memory. Didn't you tell me last week that you weren't any good at the 1.5 miles?
I told you I didn't like him. I didn't say I wasn't any good at him.
Well, anyway, tell us about the race from your driving seat.
It was tight. It was completely different from last week. Like I said, I don't like 1.5 miles, but I seem to be all right at them, and especially when you get a good group of guys like we have here at Premier Racing League. So, I managed to stay there in the top 5, and unfortunately, Scott, who seems to have the worst luck of anybody I've ever seen, always has issues. I think he got ran over there trying to go on pit road. And, the strategy played out right. I was really second-guessing myself that, it's that last caution where I didn't pit, and I was really second-guessing myself. But, I got my Twitch chat going, and everyone kept saying, pit now, pit now. And my spotter, Don, he said, you need to pit. Everyone's pitting now. So I went in and pit. And luckily for me, Matt decided to take 2. And, we ran him down, and I'm thankful that, I was coming off of 4 when I passed him. He could have stayed in it, and we probably would have both wrecked. So he got out of it and somehow pulled off the win. And it's really great to win here at Premier Racing League. I finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th so many times, but to be locked in the chase this early in the season was pretty awesome.
Kind of stole my next question out of my mind. This race 3 into the season, you're now locked into the end of the season chase. Now do you start testing and experimenting and kind of rolling the dice on different things throughout the season that you might use, or do you just try to get as many wins in the pocket as possible?
You just go for wins as much as you can, man. Being in the fixed racing league, there's not really much you can do as far as driving any different, trying a different driving style. What you got is what you got. So just keep going in there and try to pad the points lead and get us a couple more wins on there and get every advantage we can going into the chase.
Sounds like a great option. So next week we head off to Phoenix International Raceway. What are your thoughts there on the newer version of PIR?
I prefer the old one, but I still like the new one. Like I said, I'm more of a driver's track kind of guy. So flat track, slipping and sliding. It requires a lot more skill than like a Las Vegas would. Those are some of my favorite tracks. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and hopefully I'll be talking to y'all again next week.
Absolutely. Now you kind of had a big delay there, getting ready to do some burnouts. I gotta know, were you doing some shotgunning there maybe?
Yeah, you gotta have a couple Steve Weisers, man. You gotta keep it loose. I'd also like to thank Bud Light for keeping me going, and hopefully we'll be having a lot more of those for the rest of the season.
Sounds great. We'll see you next week at Phoenix International Raceway. I'll let you go back and celebrate your win tonight, and go crank another Steve Weiser. How's that sound?
Sounds good, man.
All right. We'll see you next week, John.
See you.
The voice of Jonathan Cadell was the big winner tonight. Hand pay jackpot in Vegas. Clinches his way into the chase. And this early on in the season kind of gives you a nice platform to work with for the rest of the season. So, Sammy, what do you think about what we saw today in Vegas?
Well, once again, we had a race as different as it was from the one in Rockingham. There were 2 similar themes. The first was clean green racing for most of the race. We had a couple of back-to-back cautions during the middle of the thing. But also the other one was leaders, particularly Scott Eckridge, running into trouble. Even though these drivers are able to keep it running under the green flag, a lot of times there's plenty of surprises in this league, and it's good to see Jonathan Cadell finally get a win. He was sitting high up there in the points. Now we know he's locked in, and so it'll be interesting seeing if we get another different winner next week at Phoenix.
It will be interesting. So as the season rolls on, who will be the first driver to repeat the victory? Who will be the one to break the schneid of the leader being the cursed driver throughout the first 3 quarters of the race? We'll have all the answers and more starting next week at Phoenix International Raceway. So we're going to wrap this one up and send it to the house. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Northern Tool and Equipment at northerntool.com, our series organizer, James Krahula. Thank you to the series sponsor as well, AdvoCare. If you're looking to add some spark to your life, AdvoCare gives you a full line of options from wellness and weight loss to those looking for a little more performance from their active lifestyle. Please contact independent distributor James Krahula at james.krahula.com or james.krahula@gmail.com. There we go. Or at the link in the description below. We would also like to thank the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast that you can see listed on your screen.com. Thank you to the team today, Sam Ryman, Amjad Yaman, and Dougie Beard. If you'd like to find out more about Global Sim Racing Channel, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and at Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel. A special thank you to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who both provide music for our broadcast. Their music can be found at the locations listed on screen as well. As we talked about, the next race for the AdvoCare Cup Series is March 8th, 2016, the Race for Laura Lymphoma Awareness 250K at Phoenix International Raceway. We also have other upcoming races on screen, so check it out, mark them down in your calendars, and make sure you tune on in. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and I will see you on the track.